Welcome to the Sauce Pod.
Welcome to a special edition of the Sauce Pod, where we trade the small talk for real talk, all while serving up the secret sauce for creators and digital entrepreneurs. Today, we've got a very special guest joining us. We are diving deep with the Matt Wolfe, and if you're even remotely into AI tools, you've probably heard of him. He is the builder of futuretools.io. He's a self-proclaimed tour guide of future tech and an all-around incredible entrepreneur and content creator. Not to mention, you've got Matt, 500,000 subscribers on YouTube, educating people like me on how to use all of these crazy AI tools. And you're an absolute force to be reckoned with on Twitter as well. So over the past year, you've totally blown up. You've graced countless podcasts by now, rubbing shoulders with some big names in tech. Just recently, you rocked the stage over at the Artificial Conference in LA. And there was another one also that I'll add to that.
SIGGRAPH.
Yes, thank you. But beyond your overwhelming knowledge of AI tech and future tools today, we are going to take a little peek behind the curtain and explore you, Matt, as a creative entrepreneur. And again, this is an unfiltered space, but it's a safe space. So you guys know if you're listening to this, you're going to get some good stuff out of it. Without further ado, let's dive into the mind of the man who always seems to be like 10, 20, 50 steps ahead in the tech game. Matt Wolfe, thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I just, I love having conversations. I love going wherever the conversation takes us. So let's have some fun.
I love that too. I am a fool for segues. So if we go too far, we might just end up in like some other dimension. So we'll try to keep it on track. We're definitely going to be exploring your life as a creator and sort of your journey as an entrepreneur also, and making it all happen. So I guess just to kind of start off, you do so much. You do YouTube content, you're building future tools, you're speaking at events. Like, how do you introduce yourself to people? What do you tell them?
Yeah, I normally, it's always different depending on who I'm talking to, right? So
Yeah.
if I'm talking to someone where I don't want to go too deep, I just tell them I work in the media business, or I work in content creation, or I give them something really basic. If I really feel like having a conversation with somebody, I tell people that I have an online business focused on AI, where I teach people AI, and I also have a website where I share all the latest cool tools and news in the AI space. And usually when I say that to people, it leads into like a 2-hour-long conversation about AI. So
you don't ever just introduce yourself as like just a content creator. Do you identify as that?
Yeah, I would say that I see myself as a content creator because I've been full-time. My entire job has been content creation since 2009. So I've been purely focused on making content since 2009, which I'm sure we'll get into, backstories and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I've been at this for 14 years now, full-time, and only in the last year has it actually been successful. So
that is like a journey, and I do want to talk about that. So before we even dive deep, just to lighten the mood, I want to know if you have like one surprising story about your journey so far that nobody would expect, like a little Matt Wolfe Easter egg or like fun fact, like, and you can stew on it if you don't have anything right now. We can always come back to the question, but if there's anything that pops up for you, like what's the most unexpected random thing that has been part of your story so far?
that's a good question.
We can come back to
There's probably a lot of things that anybody who's followed me for years and years knows about, but if you've only started following me since I've been doing AI stuff, you probably don't know about it. I created content in the gaming space for a while. I created content around blockchain and NFT stuff for a little while. When I first started creating content online, back in the early 2000s, it was actually music content. I've got all my guitars and stuff behind me. I've been in bands over the years. Like the first content I ever put online was actually some of like my music and the music I did with bands and stuff like that. So yeah, I don't know if any of it's floating around anymore. I don't know if I want it floating around anymore, but if you dig deep enough, you could probably find like music videos and stuff from when I was in bands.
Oh my God. Please tell me that you were like a young whippersnapper at some point making music videos of yourself and putting them on YouTube.
Not YouTube. I was making music videos pre-YouTube.
Yes. I love to hear it.
Yeah, we're talking like 2001, 2002 is when I was making like music videos. But most of it was the type of stuff where we went and did like a live show and one of our friends recorded it. And then I brought it back and like edited it up and put like stock video footage over it and stuff like that.
Okay, so were you always a performer, if you will, or somebody that was like interested in creating something, whether it's music, whether it's now content and that kind of stuff? Like, has that always sort of been a part of your journey? Because I want to dig into the music stuff for sure. I'm also a musician and I love to meet fellow musicians. They are few and far between, I find. So tell me a little bit about like some of that background, and even more so just like how the quick and dirty elevator pitch of before you got to where you are now with your 500,000 YouTube subscribers and your businesses. Give me like that quick and dirty, and sort of how it evolved. And you don't have to go on for, a whole segment, but like I want to hear the quick rundown.
Yeah, so I think I've always been sort of a creator, but more in the like nerdiest sense. I've always been a creator that involved computers in some way, right? When I was like, I don't know, maybe 11 or 12 years old, I actually learned how to program on the computer and try to make like video games on the computer. I think I got my first guitar when I was 12 or 13. And when I got my guitar, I always, I had my parents like VHS recorder and I would like film myself playing guitar and stuff. So I've always loved like creating stuff, but it always kind of came back to like, what can I do with computers? It's always been computer stuff. I learned how to make websites. I got real creative early on with like gaming websites back when like Diablo and StarCraft and games like that were out. I used to make like fan websites for video games and things like that. So I've always loved that kind of stuff. But the sort of quick story for me was I started playing guitar when I was maybe middle school, maybe early high school is when I actually started to get serious about it. My parents, they actually had a family business. It was like a shutter business, the window covering shutter kind of business. So my parents let me and my band practice like in their factory. So we had like, band practices, and it was an industrial area. So we would go and we'd be probably like drinking and playing guitar until like 1 a.m. because nobody cared. It was an industrial area. And when I was in bands, I sort of, I loved being on stage. I loved making music. I didn't really like band practice, but I loved getting up in front of people and playing music.
Yeah.
That was sort of like the very beginning of me just like loving to create stuff. But while I was working for my parents' shutter company, maybe when I was 19, 20, something like that, I started making websites for other companies. So I made my parents' website for their shutter company. And it was a very basic like WordPress website that I made back in the early 2000s. And people started asking them, who built your website for you? So my parents started referring their customers to me. I started building websites for other people, started making better and better money, making websites for people. And then I actually created an online course called the WordPress Classroom. It was a course about how to make your own websites using WordPress. So then I started to find ways to sort of scale my knowledge of how to create websites. And when I created the WordPress Classroom and I had a couple freelance gigs for building websites, I actually left the company that my parents started. By the time I left it, my parents had sold it. I actually had a real boss. It wasn't my parents who were my boss at that time. Didn't get along with the new boss. So eventually I quit and went full time in 2009 to make websites and to build up this company that taught people how to make websites. So from 2009 till today, I've been in that sort of like content teaching online space.
Yeah. During that time, like 2009 to now, were you ever working like a full-time, W-2 job, like a 9 to 5 type of thing? Or were you always just doing your own thing and kind of figuring out how to build different revenue streams? Like, because I think about this a lot, especially like with people who have this very like creative and entrepreneurial spirit, is it's like, what came first? Is it the content and the creative and the concept, the ideas that come first? Or is it the foundational knowledge of how to position all of these like chess pieces that you're playing with in a way that can then, build you an income, make it so that you don't have to go to a 9 to 5 job?
Yeah. So, I skipped a few steps in the story. So it was around 2007, I actually started creating my own blogs, and I was still working at the shutter company during this time. I sort of had this, I sort of was very lucky because I had this backup plan where my parents owned a company. So I always kind of had a job there. So in 2007, while I was working for the shutter company in my downtime, I was actually building WordPress blogs myself. I started to monetize the WordPress blogs with advertising and back then you could sell text link ads, which meant, people would come and pay you money. You would put a backlink to their website and then it would help with their SEO. Google doesn't allow that anymore, but they did back then. So I was making money off that. I was making money off of AdSense revenue. And so the income from my blogs actually started to ramp up a little bit. So when I quit my job in 2009, I actually had a little bit of recurring income from my blogs. I had launched the new course on how to build websites, and I had a few freelance clients. I wasn't making enough money to quit my job. At the time, I had a mortgage. I recently gotten married, didn't have kids yet, but I had a mortgage, a couple car payments, and I was not making enough to cover all of that yet. So I had to figure it out really, really, really quick. It was almost kind of like a burn the ships and figure it out sort of moment in 2009 when I quit.
Yes, I love it. And during that time, were you ever taking on any like odd jobs and gigs and, just overall, I guess, because the question I really want to know is like, what's the weirdest gig or job that you've done in this time between then and now?
Yeah, I mean, really, it's been full on making courses. I've done a lot of affiliate marketing. I've had e-commerce stores. I did consulting for businesses. I never really went and took on like any job away from home. Anything, if it wasn't home based, if I had to like leave my house and go work for somebody else, I didn't want it. Yeah. So I was all in on just whatever I can do from home. I had
you were like remote before remote was even a cool thing to do.
Yeah. I had clients where I was building websites for them. I think the first job where I really went, okay, I can do this. We had a guy he made a course. He sold it on a website called ClickBank. He came to us and said, hey, I want to ramp up this site. And when I say us, I actually had a business partner back then as well. His name's Joe Fear. Him and I ran a podcast for 7 years together. But back then, Joe and I, we went and we pitched this guy who had a ClickBank product on, hey, I bet we can like really, really up your sales on this product. He was making like, I don't know, $3,000 a month on this ClickBank product. And we said, here's the deal. We'll charge you 10 grand up front to do all of the work. And then we want 20% recurring of whatever it generates from here on out. And he just didn't want to deal with it. He was kind of like, I'm on to other stuff now. If you guys want to do that, fine. I'll give you 10 grand to do it. And then 20% recurring of whatever you generate. We turned that business into something that was making like 30 grand a month. We got 20% of that and we got 10 grand up front. And we went, okay, I think we can do this. So, we had a lot of random sort of jobs that we did like that, where they were for clients and building websites. We actually built websites for a few MLM companies that we look back at and go, why did we ever work with those guys? But we just did a whole bunch of client work. We were trying to build our own courses. We did a lot of affiliate marketing. 1 year, we actually generated over $1 million just from affiliate revenue. So it was like, we've done all sorts of stuff.
That's amazing. And are you still doing any, any of the, I guess, anything that you could consider from the old guard of what you were doing prior? Or is everything that you do now just like so focused on, your brand and the businesses that you're running at the moment?
Yeah, now it's totally focused on AI. Yeah. The only things I focus on now are the Future Tools website, the YouTube channel, and then I've got a newsletter that I send out every week. Those are literally the only three things that I focus on anymore. Pretty much, I still have affiliate marketing revenue because a lot of the revenue we generated when we were doing affiliate marketing was recurring revenue, and some of that's actually still flowing through. So there is some sort of like trickle-on effects from the work we did in the past, but 90% of what I'm doing now is focused on AI.
Awesome. Well, okay, so I want to get into talking a little bit about like this transition, this big like moment or this pivotal shift, if you will. But before I even ask about that, I want to know about like the grind before the glow up. Like what did your daily routine look like when you were still really, when you saw, okay, there's something here with, my brand, or maybe you can even talk about that a little bit. Like what was that oh shit moment of this is actually a thing that I need to keep going and just like put all my eggs into this basket? Like what did that daily grind look like while you were on the journey to becoming where you're at now?
Yeah, I think, early on, I didn't really have a routine. And I think that was part of the problem. It wasn't until I started getting a routine and started like really practicing doing the same stuff over and over and over again and, sticking with it that I actually started to see results. Because before it was just like, hey, does somebody want to pay me money? What do they want for it? Okay, is it ethical? Is it is it something I know how to do? Cool, it meets my 2 criteria. So that was sort of what it was all the way up until, I'd say 2017. And 2017, me and my co-host of our old podcast, Joe Fear, we started a show called Hustle and Flowchart. We interviewed a lot of entrepreneurs and authors, and we got very, very lucky with that podcast early on. We had no shame reaching out to people and just saying, hey, come on our podcast, even before we didn't have any right going after people to ask them to be on the podcast. So early on, we had people like, Michael Gerber, who wrote the E-Myth. We had David Allen, who wrote Getting Things Done. We had Guy Kawasaki, who worked for Apple. He was Apple evangelist. We had James Altucher. We had Dave Asprey, who created Bulletproof Coffee. And so early on, we just like went for it and somehow managed to get a whole bunch of yeses to come on the podcast. Our podcast had some success in around 2017. And we sort of grew that. And that was our sort of first taste of working with sponsors and going after bigger and bigger names. And actually, people sort of knowing who we were. We would go to podcast conferences and people actually knew who we were and listened to our podcast. And so that was sort of the beginning of where I am now. Somewhere around 2021, we actually started making podcast episodes about AI. We started talking about GPT-3. We started talking about some of the image generation tools that were still sort of in the background that nobody really knew about yet. But in 2021, nobody cared, right? We were putting out this content about AI, and those videos, those podcasts just underperformed. It wasn't on anybody's consciousness yet. Nobody seemed to care. And so I was still really, really into that stuff. But around the beginning of 2022, we started talking more about NFTs and crypto because, we were a digital marketing podcast, and it kind of seemed like digital marketing and NFTs were sort of colliding, right? Like marketing was becoming this sort of Web3 thing where you could sell an NFT, and the NFT was your access pass to get access to a membership area. So we were seeing this collision of NFTs and marketing. So we started talking about NFTs, and that sort of led us down the path of like the metaverse, and that kind of led us down the path of virtual reality and augmented reality and all of these sort of like futuristic tech kind of things that were coming up. And among that sort of soup of topics was AI again. So AI started to get popular mid 2022 again, when all these metaverse topics started to get popular. And mid 2022 was when I just started to like really, really fall in love with the AI stuff. The GPT-3 and Mid Journey, I think, came out towards the end of 2022, and Stable Diffusion and Dolly and some of those tools were starting to bubble up. So I started to get really, really into that stuff. And I just started making content on my own personal YouTube channel about that stuff at that time. And even when I made those videos, they didn't get any traction in the beginning. I made a video about how to train your own face into AI using Dream Booth. That video, it sat there for like 2 months and had a couple hundred views on it. If you look at that video today, it's got over 300,000 views because some of my AI videos were just sort of sitting there when AI started to bubble up. ChatGPT came out. More people heard about Mid Journey. They started looking up that stuff on YouTube, and my videos were just sitting there. And so coming all the way back around, I know I give really long-winded answers.
No, this is perfect. Keep going.
But coming back all the way around to like that, like, oh shit, like this is really starting to work moment, was I made a video about ChatGPT maybe 2 weeks after ChatGPT launched. And that video, I made it, I showed a whole bunch of prompts that you can use, a whole bunch of ideas and cool ways to use ChatGPT, how to automate your business, how to write scripts, how to use it for help in Excel, just all sorts of ways to use ChatGPT. I published that video at like 10:30 p.m. the night that I recorded it and edited it, and I threw it online, and I just went to bed thinking nothing of it. I woke up the next morning, looked at my YouTube stats, and that video had 60,000 views on it, and I went, what the hell is happening here? Like, holy shit. And that video actually went on to get 1.3 million views on YouTube. And when I woke up and saw that the next morning, that was the day I kind of went to my podcast host partner and went, dude, I think I need to go all in on YouTube. Like, I'm starting to see some traction here and I need to just go for it. So my co-host is actually still running that Hustle and Flowchart podcast to this day.
That's awesome.
I just stepped away and went, I'm going all in on YouTube because this is starting to get some traction. I'm starting to see where this can go.
Was it really clear to you right away that YouTube was the place to be? Or how were you deciding between platforms to focus on? Obviously, video content, YouTube, that's kind of a no-brainer, but like other social platforms that you were also using to kind of help promote or get that information out to people. How did you just determine, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn,
Yeah,
all of
I
that
mean,
stuff?
YouTube was really where I was getting that first traction, right? I had
Mhm.
been posting some of my videos to other places like Twitter. Like my Twitter account's only, I don't know, 13 months old or something like that. I started it in July of 2022. I had a previous Twitter account, but it was all focused on WordPress and
Yeah.
blogging. And so all the people, whenever I talked about AI, nobody on that Twitter list
Yeah.
cared. So it would get no reach. So I just started a new one when I started focusing on AI. And, so I wasn't really posting to Twitter because I was starting from scratch, right? I
Mhm.
had 200 followers or something like that back in this time last year. So YouTube was really the only place I saw traction. I was posting links to my YouTube videos on Facebook, but I'm not really a big Facebook person. That's where, my parents hang out now. It's not really where I tend to hang out.
I know.
On Facebook, I was sharing my links and I was seeing people reshare them, and I was getting a little bit of traction on Facebook, but YouTube is where I saw the numbers. So I went,
Mhm.
okay, this is what's working.
Mhm.
And with YouTube, they have they recently changed it, but they had this rule where you had to have 4,000 watch hours and a
Mhm.
thousand subscribers to get monetized. I started my YouTube channel in 2009. I didn't reach that limit of 4,000 watch hours and a thousand subscribers until 2022. So that
And
one
were you
video that,
posting to this
yeah,
YouTube channel all throughout the time that you had maintained it as an active channel?
it was mostly interview content that I was
Okay.
posting on there, and it was like WordPress plugin tutorials, and it was just all
Okay.
over the place. It was a bunch
Yeah.
of random stuff, but I was posting videos, and I didn't hit the 1,000 subscribers or 4,000 watch hours until I made that one video that just blew up overnight.
Mhm.
And with that one video, I passed all of the thresholds and went, oh, okay, I just got monetized with one single video. And then,
That's
3 days
amazing.
later, I was getting people DMing me going, hey, do you take sponsors on your videos? And next thing I know, people were just like, trying to get a hold of me and wanting to talk to me about
Yeah.
making content about them. And I went, okay, this is where it's at. This is where I need to sort of lean in.
Absolutely. Leaning in is the perfect way to describe it. So like when this happened, you immediately saw this like fire started, right?
Mhm.
How did you navigate your next steps? Was it like just in the immediate, next 5 feet ahead of me of, okay, I need to get another video out. Here's what I'll talk about. Or were you already like gears turning, starting to think about how you could turn this into something more consistent and really putting like some strategic thought behind it?
Yeah. So when that video really, really popped off, I went, okay, I need to really double down here. And what I did after that video popped off was I decided I'm going to make a video a day on YouTube and just see how long I can keep up with popping out a video a day. Because at this time, there was so many tools popping up, right? There was, so GPT-3 had their API. So a lot of people were building tools around the GPT-3 API. Stable Diffusion had an API. People were building tools around Stable Diffusion. So like every day there was like 100 new tools popping up that were doing cool, interesting stuff. So I went, I'm just going to make a different video about a different tool every day. And so I did that. And I think I lasted like maybe 35 days of making a video every single day, weekends included, just keep the pace of making a new video every single day. And so that was my only focus in that first like month or so, until I started getting more and more sponsorship offers. The numbers they were sort of offering me started getting sexier and sexier. And then I
Yes.
went, okay, let's actually start thinking about the business side of this because I need to make a living.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like, how did you strike that balance, even now, I guess, because it's still something that I'm sure you have to do. Like, how do you strike that balance between creating the content that you really, really want to create versus understanding how to game and play into the algorithm and build on the previous success of your previous content? Like, how do you find that balance?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's something that I'm still trying to figure out, right? Like the YouTube algorithm is kind of sort of a mystery, but we also sort of all know how it works these days, right? It's title, thumbnail, and hook, right? You've got to have that good title that gets people to want to watch it. You got to have that thumbnail that grabs their attention, and then within the first 20 seconds of the video, you got to say something that makes them want to stick around, right? And that's really how the algorithm works. So my goal is with every video is to put focus into those three things, no matter what the topic is. But there is sort of a balance that I have to play between making the content that I know will get views and making the content that I just enjoy making. Because I originally, when I was making YouTube videos, I wasn't monetized. I wasn't making money off of it. I was just like, this is a cool tool. I'm putting this video up and I'm just having fun making content. And I never really wanted to lose that, right? I wanted to just kind of always feel like I'm doing this for fun. Don't forget, you're doing this for fun. And so I am always trying to find that balance of, okay, I know if I make this video, it's going to do really, really well. And I know if I make this video, it's probably not going to do well, but I'm going to have a blast making the video. So I'm usually trying to make at least one of those that fits in each one of those buckets every single week. The Friday videos that I do, every single Friday now, I make a news breakdown where I just kind of say, here's all of the AI news that came out this week. Those videos for me right now in this current moment, I'm sure it'll drop off as, the hype fades a little bit, but those videos in this moment are pretty much an instant 100,000 views every time I publish one. But I love making videos about Midjourney. I love challenging myself to figure out how to make like a cool creative video using AI tools. Those videos don't seem to do as well, but I have a blast making them. So I'm always trying to make at least one from each bucket each week, knowing that my numbers are going to pick back up again when I make Friday's news video.
I love that. You mentioned something I think on Twitter a few months ago, and it really struck a chord with me. I think I bookmarked it, actually. You said, and I think probably part of this is because so many people just assume that you are this like AI wizard, like you are the AI god with tools and the knowledge and the news and stuff. But you said something on Twitter that was like, I am a creator first. And AI is just the niche that I've built in. So I'm wondering if you could expand on that a little bit for people who are looking at you and they're saying, I want to do exactly what Matt Wolfe is doing. How do I get there? Because I think it's an important distinction, where you see in the come up of a lot of bigger creators, there's a lot of assumption that it just sort of happens naturally because they love this topic and they love this thing and they love talking about it and they're really good, with it and they know other people. Where I think the difference is that a lot of these big creators also are like working their asses off to understand how the algorithm works and how to actually create content that converts, but also answers the bottom line of the message you're trying to communicate. So I'm just curious if you could give us a little context, expand on it a little bit. I loved that note that you made.
Yeah, so I love just the creator economy, right? When I'm watching YouTube videos, I almost never watch YouTube videos about AI, which would probably surprise a lot of people because I am fairly in the loop, and we can get into my process of how I stay in the loop if you want. But when I watch YouTube videos, I'm watching videos about how do I make better videos? How do I become a better editor? What is the algorithm liking right now? How do I make better thumbnails? How do I create better hooks? How do I write stories? How do I write better narrative? Like, if you saw my YouTube history, it's all about video creation, right? That's literally what I go down the rabbit hole of when I'm watching YouTube videos. Is I love creating. I love recording videos. I love editing videos. I love creating graphics with Midjourney. I love creating videos with things like Runway. I love all of the various creator tools that are out there. And I love pushing them to their limits and figuring out what I can do and trying to find new ways to use some of these tools that other people haven't used yet. And luckily, AI just sort of fits into that world as well. So when I first started going down the AI rabbit hole, it wasn't necessarily because I'm just like in love with AI and I want to share the AI news and I want to be a journalist around AI. I started going down the AI rabbit hole because I was seeing just some awesome visual effects from YouTubers like Corridor Crew. They were doing really, really cool visual effects using things like nerfs and using stable diffusion. And the first time I ever saw somebody train their face into stable diffusion, it was on a Corridor Crew video. And I went, I need to learn how to do that. So I was learning all of these things because I loved creating. And then when I started to actually leverage some of these tools for my own YouTube videos, naturally people started going, how did you do that? So I started making YouTube videos about how I did that. And those were the videos that took off. So, I don't remember what the tweet said exactly either, but really, I just love creating. AI seemed to be the niche that I fell into.
Yeah, Absolutely. And I think it's a common thread too with a lot of creators who have been able to build a business around their brand. Like I mentioned earlier, it's so much more than just doing the thing or talking about the thing constantly. It is also understanding the depths of how this content like comes to be, what hooks people in, how to tell better stories, how to write better headlines or do better, editing and things like that. And you do it beautifully. I love watching you. I love sending my friends and family over. Anytime someone's like, I need to learn AI, where do I go? I'm like, only one person you need to know, honey.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because I feel like what people are seeing is this like tip of the iceberg, right? Like it's that story of like it's a 14-year overnight success, right? Like
Exactly.
just in the last year, I managed to grow my YouTube channel by 400,000 subscribers. But from 2007-ish all the way till 2022, I was learning how to be a better digital marketer. I was interviewing, world-class entrepreneurs and authors. I was making videos in other niches. I was, for a little while, me and my partner were doing videos for other companies. They would hire us to go and, produce their videos for them. So over like that, 14-year span, I was sort of honing all of these skills. And then when I finally found this niche that just seemed to click for other people, I had built up all these skills over 14 years of digital marketing, of video production, of being confident and okay on camera, of figuring out my lighting and all of this kind of stuff. That was a 14-year journey to get there. And people are just seeing the last year of, oh my gosh, Matt's an overnight success kind of thing.
Yeah. No, exactly. It's such a good point. I'm so glad that you brought that up too, because I think it's important to like talk about the reality of it. There are people who spend their entire lives and they still don't, strike it out, if you will. But the fact that you were able to lay a foundation, have the skills to build upon, and then sort of the stars aligned with AI and tech and social platforms and the way that people are just so rabid consumption of this content. I love it. It does bring me to this topic of like scaling, which I feel like is always a wormhole topic because there are so many approaches and advice and wisdom from like bootstrappers and startups and Twitter gurus about like how to scale your one person solopreneurship or how to scale your content creator business. But I really do want to know, like, for you, what were the first signs or indicators, if you will, that it was time to scale up? And what did that look like for you? Did it mean bringing on a team? Did it mean hiring additional editors? Like, when you think of scaling your business, where's your head at?
Yeah, it's funny because a lot of the, advice on how to scale, it's always anecdotal and it's always after they scaled, right?
Yeah.
So
or it's from like a 17-year-old.
Yeah.
Like, what?
But for me, it's one of those things where I look at what I've done so far on things like YouTube, and it's still a mystery to me. I look at my videos, I look at the YouTube growth, and I go, why are people watching my videos? Because every time I make a video, I find every single little flaw in the video, everything I would have done differently, everything I wish I said that I didn't say, or things I said that I wish I didn't say, things like that. I look at every video and go, oh, this video is garbage, but I'll make the next one better, right? And so that's sort of me, is this constant pursuit of how do I make my videos better, because I'm never happy with my videos and I don't know if I ever will be. But as far as scaling goes, the scale on YouTube just kind of happened naturally, right? I can't say that there was any sort of like tactic that I used and all of a sudden like my channel was growing. It was really a case of I started talking about AI, people started discovering them, and my subscribers just grew. And I can't really put a methodical path behind how that happened. It just kind of right timing and luck, and I guess people like the personality that was coming out on camera. I don't know. Like I don't know.
Don't be
why
shy. People love you, Matt. People love you. It's hard to find somebody who has like genuinely so much just adoration amongst communities, and I think that's a really unique trait to have. And it's like, it's great just like knowing you, but also being in that same sphere where other people like, because you get a lot of these, like after a certain point in time where the content creator scales tip and people just become like kind of dicks or douchebags, or they maybe just never were like a good person to begin with. But I'm glad to see that it carries through. I'm curious about like scaling in terms of even your business though. Like at what point do you have a team that you work with now? And like, what kind of teams do you work with? Do you have multiple people, editors? Like, do you have like, at what point were you like, okay, maybe I need somebody to handle my finances or my sponsorships? Like, how did that all come together?
Yeah, so I do have a team. So I have one person that works on future tools for me. That was the first person that I ended up hiring, right? Because we haven't really talked about it a whole lot, but I also built Future Tools, which is a site where I curate all the cool tools I come across. I also share all the news on there every single day. And that site, to this day, I'm still the one who finds the news and puts it on the site. I'm still the one who finds the tools and puts them on the site. But instead of me being the one who literally goes and adds them to the site, I just have a Google sheet where when I find the tools or I find the news, I have a team member who's, managing the Google sheet and managing the site. When an update or tweak needs to happen, he's managing them. And he was the first person that I brought in just because the Future Tools website and the YouTube channel both blew up at the exact same time, same month, right? December of last year was when the Future Tools website exploded and the YouTube channel exploded, and they both did it from separate directions. Future
Were
Tools
you cross
exploded.
promoting them together though? Like you were
Not at the
tying
beginning.
Future. Really? Okay,
No,
talk
no.
to me about Future Tools though, because I know that we kind of like missed that step, and I want to loop back around and talk to how Future Tools came about and how that just sort of grew in tandem with YouTube.
Yeah, so the Future Tools website I built in a weekend, right? Me and my son, he was sitting next to me going, "Hey, you should put that there, make this look like that." And so we were literally like building this site together. He was like helping me with it. He's 8 years old, by the way. So he was sitting next to me, like helping me design this website. And so we built that on a Saturday. On the Monday that I sort of loaded it up with, I don't know, maybe 100 tools, I went and tweeted about it. I went, "Hey, here's a website that I made for myself about all the latest tools I came across. I used to keep them in an Excel spreadsheet. It was getting unorganized. So I built this site on Webflow just so I can organize them and tag them and find the tools myself a lot easier. But, since I built the website, if anybody else wants to use it, here it is." And I put that out there on Twitter. And that was my first ever viral tweet, right? At the time, I had 300 followers on Twitter. Robert Scoble shared it. I think, Billivol shared it. A bunch of people that already had some traction in the AI space started sharing this website around, and the website sort of exploded because of Twitter. And also I shared it on Reddit. There was a subreddit called like "I made this" or something like that, where people just share like quick weekend projects that they made. I shared it in that subreddit. It ended up like rising to the top of Reddit and getting really popular really quick. So between Twitter and Reddit, that site sort of exploded. But I wasn't cross promoting from Future Tools over to the videos, and I wasn't talking about the website in my videos yet. So they were two totally separate things. It wasn't until later on that I went, I could probably make both of them bigger if I, shared my videos on the website and then talked about my website on the videos. So that actually came later on, where I sort of had them cross over.
Yeah.
But, going back to the scaling question, Vishal, the guy who runs my website for me, I hired him because I went, okay, YouTube is really, really working. The stuff that I'm doing on Future Tools is just sort of like manual entry, right? It's like data entry. So that was something that I felt I can easily hand off. I can easily train somebody else to do. And so that was the very, very first hire that I brought on. The second hire I brought on was my editor, who now he edits probably 75% of my videos. I still love editing. I still love creating. So I still edit.
Stop. So you're editing still?
I still edit probably one of my videos a week, just because
awesome.
I don't want to lose touch with it. I like editing. For me, that's part of the creativity is, you can record a video, but so much of what you see on the YouTube channel is from the editing, not from, just me speaking. So I like to stay in that mix. I like to learn the new tools. I like to figure out ways to do visual effects in my videos. So I still edit, one video a week or so. But that editor really helped me, when I started doing traveling and going on more podcasts and other things started to pop up. Now I can just hit record on my computer, ramble for a half hour, send him that and go, all right, finish the video off for me. So I have that ability now. So that was my second hire. And then the next hire I hired was actually a team. There was a company called Smooth Media. The founder of that company watched my YouTube videos, was a fan. He works with Colin and Samir, which is another YouTube channel that I really, really like. He reached out to me and said, "Hey, let's have a chat." I chatted with him. We hit it off real well. Well, it turns out his company is a company that goes out and lines up sponsorships for you and manages the sponsorships and does all the back and forth for you. And he didn't even reach out to me to say, "Hey, I want to do this service for you." He just wanted to get to know me because he liked my channel. Yeah. When he told me what he did, I went, I need that. Like, I need somebody to handle sponsorships for me. And be the person to negotiate the price, because I'm going to undersell myself. I undervalue what my YouTube videos are worth. I was charging $1,800 to sponsor a YouTube video in the early days. These guys went in and went, dude, you need to be like 10xing that number.
Yeah.
And I went, okay, well, you can be the bad guy. You go and pitch that price. And so
like, I'm not telling them.
so I brought him on board.
Talk to me about sponsors though, because were you handling sponsorships up until you linked up with this media company that was going to handle it for you, who I'm assuming you're still working with right now?
Yes.
Prior to that, were you just kind of like bootstrapping it and like just passion fruit? Like, what tools were you using?
Yeah.
How were you managing sponsors manually without a team?
Yeah, well, I never used passion fruit for YouTube sponsors.
Okay.
Because I felt like it was too nuanced, right? I felt like with YouTube sponsors, some of them wanted integration, some of them wanted me to do an entire video about their product. There was different sort of elements. Sometimes there was products that I just didn't, I wasn't super excited to work with, so I was going to price it really high just so if they said yes, it was worth my while. And there was a lot more nuance to it. So passion fruit I used for my newsletter sponsorships because that was a fixed rate. I was charging $900 a week to sponsor a newsletter. It was a fixed rate. You could come in, book for a certain week. It would open up the calendar and show you which weeks were available for sponsorships. If I approved the sponsorship, it automatically invoiced them. They paid the invoice. We were good to go. So that sort of automated the process of newsletter sponsorships for me. With YouTube sponsorships, I just did it the old-fashioned way, back and forth, either in email or on Twitter DMs. And it was sort of a nightmare because a lot of sponsors fell through the crack. I did a lot of negotiation back and forth where I'd give them a price and they'd say, oh, we're a new startup. Can you do it for this price? And a lot of that back and forth kind of became a nightmare. And then, I was waiting on them to send me assets because they wanted me to like show their logo on screen, but they hadn't sent me their logo yet. And it was too much. That stuff just became a hassle, which when I talked to Josh over at Smooth Media, he said, it won't be a hassle anymore. We'll handle all of that. So now I don't really even have a whole lot of communication with the sponsors. They just kind of have my calendar. They know when I'm going to release videos and they tell me, all right, this video is sponsored by this company and here's all the details you need to know to insert the sponsorship. So now the sponsorships are fairly hands-off. And then Smooth Media, they also ran some big newsletters in the past. And so now they actually have a newsletter team, and I'm bringing their newsletter team on board as well to help me with my weekly newsletter. So that my 100% focus all the time, nonstop, is learning about AI tools, making content around AI tools. I've got somebody else handling the newsletter, the sponsorships, the website, everything else is handled. I just make content. So I love it. That's sort of where I'm trying to take the business.
I love it. And in terms of like those collabs or partnerships, were there any earlier on, like even maybe before you brought in a team to handle sponsorships, were there any like pivotal collabs or partnerships that happened that really just like, you were like, they're paying me? Like what? Did you have any big like moments of, I think I've made it?
Yeah, I mean, the very first sponsor that actually paid me decent money was a company called OpenCV. They're a computer vision company, and they reached out to me and wanted to sponsor me, and I gave them a price that I didn't think they were going to say yes to. They got back to me within 10 minutes and went, sounds good. Like just no pushback whatsoever. And I went, maybe I undersold them. Maybe I didn't charge enough, and
zeros.
And that sponsorship went really well. They wanted to review the video before it went live. I made the video, sent it over to them. Within 10 minutes of sending the video, they gave me the thumbs up. They said it looks good. I published it. Everything went smooth. OpenCV has sponsored me maybe 3 or 4 more times since then for increasingly higher rates.
Yeah.
Because the channel's grown as well. That was the first time I went, okay, I think sponsors are gonna work out well for me, and also I'm not charging enough for sponsorships.
Yeah.
The first like really big sponsor that I got came along after I started working with the Smooth Media team. They went and brought on Shopify as a sponsor, and they did a 3 video package. And when they told me the number they were going to pitch Shopify, when they told me the number they were going to pitch them, I went, good luck getting that. And they came back like the next day and they're like, yep, we got it. They signed the contract. And I was just like, oh my God. And so
that's awesome.
That was my first, like, okay, we're getting into like, 5-figure deals now with some of these sponsorships. This is getting pretty exciting.
That's awesome. And I know like we kind of touched on this earlier where diversifying revenue streams is really important as a creative entrepreneur, but really for all entrepreneurs. So I'm curious if you would be down to give like a rough breakdown of how of where your recurring revenue comes from. Like if X% comes from sponsorships, X% comes from speaking or courses or that kind of stuff, like roughly speaking.
So I have to do some mental math here.
You can just guesstimate it.
Yeah, I'd say the majority of my income comes between AdSense revenue, so just the what YouTube pays me every month, and sponsorships. That's probably between those two. That's probably 60% of what I'm making comes from those two sources. And then the Future Tools website, I've got featured listings on the website where people can pay for 1 week and I will bump your tool to the top of the site. I only do 2 listings a week total. That probably accounts for another, I don't know, 10 or 15%. Future Tools also has affiliate links. So a lot of the tools that are listed on the site, if they have an affiliate link, I use the affiliate link. If they don't, then I'm not doing it for the affiliate revenue. Affiliate revenue is probably another 10%. And then I've got the newsletter. The newsletter has a sponsor in it every week. I don't remember what percentage I'm at, but the newsletter is probably that final 20%. But there is some other intangibles there that are not necessarily recurring revenue, but they're future revenue. So I actually do have some equity in a handful of companies that reached out to me and asked if I could be an advisor on their company, because one of the benefits of being so in the loop with all the latest AI tools and all the latest AI news is I have companies that say that information that you're getting on what's going on and keeping your finger on the pulse, that's valuable to us. So we'll give you a little sliver of equity in our company if you can advise on just what you're seeing, what news you're seeing, what new tools are coming out. Just keep us in the loop, and we're happy to compensate you for that. So that's another piece that's not necessarily like, all right, I'm getting a check from them every month, but several months down the line, maybe even several years down the line, that could be a really big check.
Absolutely. And like, that's a really good segue into, they know that you are keeping a pulse on this stuff. And I know that everyone asks you this, I'm sure, again, I'm just assuming, but I'm assuming that everyone asks you, how the hell do you do it? How do you stay ahead and decide what trends to jump on, what to let pass? And like, what does your workflow look like kind of on a day-to-day as you're digesting and learning from and determining the next steps on what to take with a trend?
Yeah. So when it comes to AI news, I have a very, very consistent habit that I do every single day. I have a tool called Feedle, which is an RSS feed reader of all of the latest like AI news blogs, right? Like I've got Google's blog loaded in there. I've got Apple's blog loaded. I've got NVIDIA's blog. I've got Microsoft, Adobe, all of these companies I've got in my Feedly account. So I'm always seeing all the news from all the big companies that are coming out. But Leo is also this AI tool where it's kind of like a Google alert on steroids, right? Where it sort of searches the web for anything that has the keywords you're looking for. So I have it searching the web for articles that talk about artificial intelligence, machine learning, generative AI, any of those sort of topics. It's searching those for me. But the cool thing about Feedly Leo is you sort of train it over time. So as content comes in, you can say, I want to see more like this, less like this, less like this. And over time, your feed starts to get sort of trained on just the content that it knows you're interested in. So first thing I do every single morning when I sit down at my computer, before I get into email, before I open DMs, before I open any of that, is I open up my Feedly account and skim everything that's come through in the last 24 hours since I've checked it the previous morning. And I do that every day, Saturdays, Sundays, if I'm traveling, every day. I want to stay in the loop with that kind of stuff because it's only, 15-minute process. Just skim it real quick. I'll open articles in a new tab that look interesting to me. And that's sort of how I stay on the loop with the news. Yeah. I also have a folder inside of my Gmail account where I'm subscribed to all the other AI newsletters. So, there's the Rundown newsletter, there's Ben's Bites newsletter, there's the Neuron, there's Superhuman AI, there's 100 other AI newsletters, and I'm subscribed to probably all of them. And every morning after I go through I call it my alpha feed in Feedly, every morning after I go through all the alpha in my Feedly account, I open up that folder in my Gmail and I skim everybody's newsletters going, is there any news that they found that I haven't found yet? And so that's the second step. The third step is I use Twitter lists. So I have a Twitter list for just AI. So everybody that I follow in the AI space is on a Twitter list. Everybody that I follow in the sort of augmented reality, extended reality space, they're on a list. And then I have a list for people who talk about YouTube, like growth on YouTube, thumbnails on YouTube, how to work the system on YouTube. So those are the three lists that I kind of like check in every day. I don't use my Twitter home feed rarely at all. I use my notifications feed, who's tagging me and stuff, and I use my lists. And that's all I use. Twitter or X, or I'll never get used to calling it.
I know. It's just, it still sounds wrong. I love Feedly so much. I have also been a huge fan of it. This is not sponsored by Feedly, but I love them. I've been using it for a few years when they finally like launched Leo, and it was just like a game changer. Are there any other like feed aggregators, or do you put all of your ducks into the Feedly Leo basket and that's what you check? Like, do you find yourself still like Googling news every day?
I don't really find myself Googling news. I kind of find that between the newsletters, Feedly, and the Twitter list, like there's pretty much nothing that I miss, right? Because Twitter is pretty up to the moment. Even when like OpenAI launches something, they usually write a tweet about it like the moment they launch it. One thing that's cool about Feedly as well is you can create custom feeds. So I don't know if I should be saying this on a recording, but I will anyway. So like Ben's Bites, Ben Tossel, he's got a sort of news feed. I think it's at news.bensbites.com, where every day any news that he finds or anybody that follows him finds can share the news on his site. Well, I created a custom feed inside of my Feedly account where anytime a new piece of news shows up on Ben's Bites newsletter, it shows up in my Feedly, right? So I found all these other sites that also share AI news, and I created custom feeds in Feedly that pool, and it's not necessarily an RSS. It just looks for, and like it looks at the divs inside the code, and finds anytime a new article is posted. And so everybody else's news aggregators are also being pulled into my Feedly account as well.
The ultimate hack. I love it. I love it. I want to ask you about hate and negativity, because I feel like it's inevitable that, at a certain point, the sting of online criticism comes around, and it can be really challenging to deal with. So like, have you had to deal with any of like the online hate, any of the trolls, the negativity? And if so, how do you deal with it?
Yeah, I mean, when my channel first started to blow up, it hit me hard, right? Like it was like, that was the hardest part for me. Like I made the first handful of YouTube videos and I was excited by the numbers, but human nature, right? I'll start to read the comments. There could be 90 good comments and 5 negative comments. And my brain goes, why does everybody hate me? Like I focus in on those 5 negative comments. And so that kind of stuff was hitting me hard when I first started making YouTube videos. And I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to like deal with all this. I don't like putting myself out there. The thing is, I was making content in the NFT crypto space before this, and there was a lot of hate in that space as well. Still
that's
is
its own hellscape over there.
Yeah, that's its own. Yeah, exactly. So I was making content in that space, and when I moved to the AI space, I went, you know what? I'm getting in with creators and visual artists, and it's not going to have that same negativity that they had kind of in the crypto space, but it's almost like, I don't want to say it's worse because it's not really comparable. Back when I was making content around crypto, I was getting 1,000 views per video. When I'm making content about AI, I'm getting, upwards of 100, 200,000 views per video. So it's not really easy to compare, but yeah, there's definitely a lot of hate in the AI space. Obviously people are freaked out about their jobs. They're freaked out because, art is being trained on sources that are, the ethics are still sort of gray area. So there's a lot of that kind of stuff going on in the AI space. And my approach, after the first sort of like week of being sort of bummed out about it, I had a talk with a good friend who's sort of been through this stuff, had a big explosion, got really popular, has a real popular YouTube channel as well. I had some conversations with him about it, and he said, here's my approach. Post your YouTube video and treat it as if you just got off a stage at a conference, right? When you go and give a presentation at a conference, you speak, you get off the stage, maybe there's a 20-minute window where people could come up to you when you get off the stage and ask you questions and give you feedback on your presentation. And then once you go back to your hotel room or you leave the room, the conversation's over. He said, treat YouTube the same way. So now what I tend to do is I'll publish a YouTube video, and then for maybe an hour or two after the video is published, I read the comments, I reply to any questions, I sort of engage. And then after that 2-hour window is up, I'm on to the next video. I don't think about it anymore. I also tend to try to take a very empathetic approach, right? Whenever somebody says like, oh, AI is going to take our jobs, or AI is not art, or any of this kind of stuff, my brain these days tends to go to like, where are they coming from? A lot of times I'll look at their profile and be like, what do they do for a living? Oh, they're a comic book artist. I can see why this is freaking them out a little bit. And so I feel like over time I've gotten a lot more empathetic towards them. And I think that actually comes out in my videos, because a lot of times I'll talk about both the positives and the negatives of some of the tools that I'm talking about. I've kind of just sort of found processes and systems to handle it. Be empathetic. If they're an asshole, block them, right? Like I'll get people that like will write comments that are just like, oh, you're an idiot, fuck you, or something like that, right? And I'm just like, all right, block. There was nothing constructive there. But I never, ever block or delete comments from constructive criticism. I never block or delete people who go, you know, I'm worried that AI is going to take my job, or I don't believe that AI is real art. I tend to see where they're coming from a little bit in a lot of these cases. And so I don't ever block that. I only block people that are just like being a troll for the sake of being a troll.
Absolutely. And they exist. And hopefully we won't lose our block feature on that.
That's true.
No, I love the tip. That's definitely going to be a tactic that I recommend to some of my, you know, colleagues, friends, partners, clients, around treating the experience like it's a stage event, and you're done after that. I think it's so easy to get like sucked into the vitriol that exists in the in-betweens. And it's like a good reminder to step back. You're putting content out there into the world, and, you know, people are always going to have their ridiculous opinions on it. And I love that you're transparent enough to address both sides of it as well. I think that's really key, and not taking like one hard stance or another, but more so like understanding, empathizing, understanding where they're coming from and why they feel threatened is so essential. Okay. If you're down, I would love to do a quick rapid fire.
Let's do it.
Some fun little, I got some fun ones in here. So if you don't know, you can just like skip past whatever, like, all right. What do you're ready, right? Take a deep breath.
I think so. I don't know what I'm getting into, but I think I'm ready.
I've got like maybe like 10, 15 questions. I might not ask them all, but let's see. All right. What do you consider your biggest pride and joy?
I'm going to say something really cliche, but my kids, my family.
I love that. Okay, good. That was a plant. I was just testing. What are your top 3 hobbies or interests outside of AI and tech?
Music, playing video games, and let's see, what would a third one be? We go camping a lot. We just bought a travel trailer and we go camping a lot. So I play guitar, I go camping, I play video games.
All American man. I love it. What's your favorite video game?
Lately, it's been Zelda Tears of the Kingdom.
It's a good one.
Yeah.
If you had to describe your creator journey in a clickbait headline, what would it be?
How to grow 200,000 subscribers in 2 months.
Nailed it. All right. If you had to choose, which app would you delete forever? YouTube or Twitter?
Oh, Twitter. Easy.
Easy. Done. Who do you learn from? It could be creators, writers, books, authors, philosophers. Where do you get your wisdom?
Yeah, so books and YouTube. I watch a lot of YouTube. I feel like if you want to be successful at YouTube, you got to watch what other successful YouTubers are doing. So I learn a lot from YouTube, and I read for at least an hour every single day.
Love it. Any specific creators that you want to mention?
I love the Colin and Samir channel. They're probably my favorite channel around like creators. There's a channel called Alex Tech or something like that, who talks about DaVinci Resolve. I use DaVinci Resolve for editing, so I watch his videos a lot. I mean, those are the two that come to mind. I'm sure I'm doing an injustice because I watch a lot of videos. I watch every Mr. Beast video that comes out because he's the master at creating videos that people want to watch.
There you go.
But yeah, there's 3.
If you could have 1 hour to pick the brain of any fictional character, who would it be?
Any fictional character?
And you can't say Zelda.
He doesn't even talk. I don't think he's let's see, what I'm trying to think of fictional characters off the top of my head. I don't know, pass. Come back to that one. I'll think on it.
We'll what is a trend that you wish would just die?
let's see, newer trends that I wish would die is that weird NPC character thing that people are doing on social media. That's just, I don't get it.
I love the magic. I love. Watch, Matt. In like 6 weeks, you're gonna be doing one.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I wish short form content would just kind of go away. Like, I'm not a fan of TikToks and Reels and YouTube Shorts and all that kind of stuff. I'm probably going to start doing some because my editor wants to work on some, and I feel like it might be necessary to grow the channel, but it's not something I'm really a fan of. I don't really watch short form content.
I can get behind that. No more NPCs. We'll talk about short form content later. We'll come back and check back around in like 6 months and see where we're at with it.
Yeah.
All right. So there's a new world order where you can only have 3 apps on your phone. Only 3. What are the 3 apps?
Let's see. YouTube for sure. Feedly, because we've talked so much about it. Let's see. Hold on. I got to look at my phone. Does the camera count as an app?
No utility tools.
Okay, so yeah, probably, yeah, I would keep my Feedly app because I do skim that every morning. I would keep YouTube because I watch a lot of YouTube videos on my phone, and I don't know. I really would only need 2. But maybe Discord, so I can make mid-journey mid-journey images.
Yeah, Discord. I love it. Okay, cool. What is the weirdest DM you've ever received? Not including the scammers or the "are you looking for a job" people.
Yeah.
But like a real one.
Lately, I've been getting a lot of DMs that I just don't even read anymore. I've gotten DMs from people that just say like "I love you" with like hearts.
Do you even respond like thanks?
No, yeah, I typically don't even respond to those. Let's see. I've gotten DMs asking if I was married. I don't know. Like, I'm having a hard time thinking of them because I think I block out all the really weird stuff.
Yeah, I don't blame you.
There's this one person who, hopefully they don't listen to this podcast, but there's this one person that DM'd me and said, "Hey, I'd love to work with you." And then like the next day we're like, "Hey, Matt, are you there?" And then the next day they're like, "Did you get abducted by aliens?" And they're like, and then the next day they're like, were you on that submarine that imploded? And then the next day they were like, every day they had just some weird random reason that I haven't responded yet. And I'm like, now I don't want to respond because I want to see where he's going to go with these.
Yeah, like it's becoming a story now. I love it.
Yeah.
What is the most like overused cliche phrase that you're guilty of saying? It could be like in your videos.
Yeah.
It could be.
I know I was really bad at this on our podcast, but I edit now, so I say it a lot less. That's ninja, right? I say, "Oh, this tool is ninja. Oh, that guy is a ninja." Like I said ninja a lot for some reason. And now I probably still say it when I'm rambling, but I edit it out if I do.
It's like a trigger word for you now.
Yeah.
That's funny. All right, last question on this rapid fire before we like kind of wrap things up is, what is the last thing that you generated using AI?
Last night I actually made a video for a company called InVideo where you enter a prompt and it actually generates a full video up to 15 or 20 minutes in length. It will write the script for you. It will do the entire voiceover for you with a realistic sounding voiceover. It will go search the internet for stock video and fill the entire video with stock video to go along with the voiceover and the text. It will add the subtitles for you. It will add background music for you. And it actually makes really, really good videos from one prompt. They did sponsor a video. This episode of The Sauce is not sponsored by InVideo, but that was the last thing I generated. I was actually playing around with their tool last night.
Oh, that's cool. I guess just to kind of like wrap things up and close it off, give me a teaser of like, what is the next big move, the next big thing that you're working on or that you're excited to loop people in on?
Yeah, so there's a few things. Like, I'm really planning on up-leveling the YouTube channel. I have some ideas for videos that I've never played with yet. I'm going to make some like narrative videos where they're actually scripted and I have like high quality footage and B-roll that I use on some of these videos. I've got some like cool like challenge videos that I'm excited to make. But the other thing that I don't know if I've actually announced anywhere else yet is there is a podcast coming out that I'm co-hosting with another sort of influential name in the AI space. I don't want to say his name yet because I don't know if he's officially talked about it yet, but me and this other person, we're going to be making a a weekly podcast where we interview other thought leaders and researchers and just interesting voices in the AI space. So that's something that
I'm excited.
I think is probably the first episode will probably come out early September.
So it's going to be a new podcast is what you're saying. Like you're going to be co-hosting a new podcast.
Yeah. Okay. Whole new channel, whole new like RSS feed, iTunes, Spotify, the whole deal.
I love it. I can't wait. I am going to be sharing that around. This is like such a cliche bullshit question, but I have to ask it. Where do you see yourself in the next few years? Like, what is the ideal picture of your future?
I'm going to give a cliche answer. So I love, I love creating. I love making videos. I want all of the rest of my business things to be automated so I can just be full-time making videos. Like, right now I'm complaining about travel because it's making it harder to make videos, but I really want to get to a point where I'm going to a lot of AI events. I'm going to, the Apple events and all the types of events I've been going to lately, but I'm going and making really high quality content from the events, probably working with a cameraman and, building up the team to make better and better videos. Like, I'm a huge fan of the Corridor Crew YouTube channel and I love what they make. They just go to a next level with the type of content they make. And I sort of have aspirations to do that kind of stuff in the future, but, honed in more on like AI.
Awesome. That's so sick. I'm so excited to see where your journey keeps taking you. You're one of my all-time favorite creators, and I'm so appreciative that you came on the Sauce Pod today to chat with me.
Hey guys, that's a wrap for this week's episode of the Sauce Pod. Hope you enjoyed yourself, maybe even learned a thing or two. Don't forget, you can subscribe to us on YouTube. You can also subscribe to our newsletter that goes out every Monday night. All of the latest and greatest tips, news, and trends for content creators and digital entrepreneurs. Until next time, stay saucy.